Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today I have with me John Petitte and Jason Farrell. I had to go back and look at their job titles. John is CEO and co-founder, and Jason is Chief Customer Officer at Amplifi Labs. And that's Amplifi, all I's, no Y's, basically.
That's
so,
right.
John, Jason, thank you so much for joining me today. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing, Tony?
I am doing fantastic. So today, historic episode, first episode I'm recording in my new life as a digital nomad. So I recorded my last one in Atlanta about 2 months ago, and then I recorded some from the road, from my mother-in-law's house, from some other places. We are finally down in Buenos Aires, Argentina, which will be our new home base for the next year. And we will be at different Airbnbs. So this particular Airbnb is a beautiful penthouse. So this is a real background, not a fake background. It won't always be the case. I'm sure there will be times where neither my internet connection nor my background is this nice. So if I'm not mistaken, according to LinkedIn, Jason is in New York and John is in Raleigh. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, essentially. So I'm in Raleigh, but Jason, you're like more outside of Philadelphia, you'd say?
Yeah, so my house is outside Philadelphia, but since my wife just accepted a new position, I am looking at Manhattan right now.
Congrats.
City.
Congrats. Were either of you at InsurTech Insights last week in New York with the worst air quality ever recorded on the yellow skies?
I was not at the event. My wife was. I was looking at the skies and kind of looked like Mars outside. Never been there, but that's.
I have never seen anything like it. And of course, when I'm at a conference, I'm running around, I'm meeting people, I'm making video. Like I'm the first person there, last person out. I'm running around with my top hat and like doing magic tricks for people. At about 2 p.m., I emerged for whatever reason because it's kind of downstairs, right? So I emerged to the main floor and went outside, and the sky was yellow, like my camera could not properly capture. Other people did successfully capture the color. My iPhone like tried to balance it out. Basically, I have never seen, and I had no idea what was going on because I hadn't been checking the news, right? So I literally was expecting to see the Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters. Like I had no idea. I thought it was the apocalypse. So just. Go ahead.
Real quick, Jason, I didn't ask this yet, but I've been wondering it. You were in New York during 9/11, is that right, Jason?
Correct.
So,
Correct.
What was the air like now compared to then, right, in your experience?
It was worse then,
Okay.
just because your body can process smoke a bit. I mean, smoke inhalation is not good for you, but particulate matter wasn't bad. With the September 11th, it was denser, blocked out more light, and was more deadly because of the asbestos in the air.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting.
Never even thought of that. That's interesting. That's scary. I'm very glad I was there last week and not 9/11.
Yeah.
Whew, okay, so with that uplifting start to the conversation.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No worries. Excellent. So we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch. So what is Amplifi Labs?
So Amplifi Labs is a digital product development shop. So we help other companies build digital products. And we focus on the software side. We have hardware partners if somebody has hardware needs. But pretty much everything else, UI, UX, mobile web, infrastructure, machine learning, AI, even let's say one-off specialist type projects like forensic watermarking for digital assets, that falls within what we do. There's certain things that we don't do like AR, VR, but we have a partner for that. We typically won't, do super low level work like writing drivers for Linux or writing in the Linux kernel. We have a partner who would most likely do that type of work, who's really good at super low level stuff. But just about everything else we'll do, and we characterize ourselves as an agency that is either going to be able to do it ourselves, or we're going to know somebody who does.
Okay. Okay. So, how much development have you guys done for insurance organizations, whether that's carriers, brokers, insurtechs, etc.?
So we're market agnostic, and what kind of pushed us into looking at the insurtech space were two things. One, we're involved in fintech, and two, Jason personally is heavily, let's say, related to the insurance space. And your wife, actually, Jason, you want to describe a new job that she got? It's in the insurance space, right?
Absolutely, and I can disclose the company now since she actually has officially started. Today's her first day. My wife is a fellow in the Society of Actuaries, FSA, and she is the chief actuary for American Equity Life.
Congratulations! Fantastic. If you're gonna move back into Manhattan, a chief actuary role is one of the best ways to do it.
Well, or West Des Moines, Iowa. All my insurance friends out there can tell you that's a hotbed for actuaries. So. Des
Moines is one of the giant insurance capitals. Absolutely. I'm a 515 phone number to this day. Not an actuary. Let's be clear on that one. So congrats to your wife. Okay. So basically, how did Amplifi Labs come to happen? And then how did you realize through your wife that hey, there's a ton of work that we could help with, where our skill set would be a good fit?
So
absolutely. Well, I'll let John answer how it came into being, and then I'll answer a second.
Yeah. So Amplifi Labs was founded by myself and Paula Reek, beginning of 2019. We essentially found ourselves in a position where, we're entrepreneurs at heart. We build things. We like building things, and helping other folks build things was a good way to examine what problems people were willing to pay to solve, right? Businesses out there, they've got, let's say, in the leadership team, they've got a set of maybe 3 things that they care about, right? Top 3 things. And then those are the things that they're focusing on, that they're willing to spend money on to solve. And so getting involved with those members of the market and understanding what are they trying to do, what are the challenges they're facing, kind of began as a way to examine what the market was doing, right? What did people care about? And that's one of the key things if you're trying to start and grow businesses. So what we found is that we were just simply really good at helping other people build things and solve problems. And we found that, each year we were doubling in size, right? From a team standpoint, from a revenue standpoint, etc. And when we examined what we were doing, we said, hey, look, if I'm a VC or an investor and I can double my investment every year, that's not bad. We should continue to put time into this. And so it kind of became a no-brainer to just continue to grow it. So that's where it began, and that's kind of why we're still doing it today. I'll put it that way.
And the reason we became involved, what steered us towards the insurance part of financial services, my background, the reason I was downtown on September 11th was for many years after that and previous to that, I was a derivatives trader on Wall Street, and Wall Street being downtown, that's where I was at. And so even though we're providing digital solutions, obviously my background still comes with a slant towards financial services. And I definitely saw a gap in the market from a financial services standpoint. Went to a fintech meetup, it's called, in Las Vegas this year. And my suspicions were true. There was still a lot left to be desired on the financial services part of the business, especially in the UI UX part, as well as the integration part. I've worked with brilliant programmers throughout the years that can dazzle you with what they can do as far as pricing things and such, but when it comes to converting that to the retail side rather than the institutional side, they weren't doing the things that needed to be done from a user experience, user interface, and to integrate to new products. When I mentioned some of this to my wife, she said, "Well, if you think your part of financial services is bad, you should check out insurance, with especially UI UX." And I kind of had an inkling for that just because I've met actuaries throughout the years, and it's not a knock on the FSAs and FCASs out there or any actuaries in general, but there's people who are kind of set in their ways with any field where they're not innovating. And my comment to my wife is always, when she's mentioned somebody, is, well, they probably do a mean death table, they do the traditional part, but it's even more so from a company standpoint where there's a few reasons they don't move quickly. Number one, the regulatory part outside of the healthcare industry, probably the most regulated industry in the United States. And number two, the attitude of, we've always done business this way, we're going to keep doing business this way, and people are just going to have to deal with it.
Yep.
And it's just not the right way to do it. They're starting to wake up to that, and in fact, for those of you who don't know, Tony and I did meet at the InsurTech Connect down in Miami, Florida for Latin America. And when I would tell people about UI, UX, medium, small, and very large companies, a lot of times would just stop me, here's my card, give me a call. Because they understand what's going on now and they have to move.
That makes perfect sense. And the actuarial side, and the actuaries that I've dealt with are mostly casualty actuaries, but I'm assuming there's a lot of similarities with life actuaries. But one of the explanations I've heard is that it takes such a long time of following the plan, of getting your degree and then doing the exams, and the exams, especially, well, at least on the casualty side, are all about doing it our way, doing it the traditional way, right? That by the time you finish them, you're probably 30 years old, and at that point, asking you to go like, okay, go innovate, right? We've taught you nothing but how to follow a specific path for 30 years, and now go innovate, right? It's just not a natural thing for them to do. And then I spent a lot of time thinking about insurance, P&C side, and why the insurance companies are so conservative. And I've talked to, I'm only 40, I've been in the industry for 15 years, but I've been incredibly blessed to go to so many conferences, probably a couple hundred, and I've had conversations with so many people who have 40, 50 years of experience in the industry, and chatting with them and really listening to them, one of the conclusions that I've come to as a history nerd is that insurance companies are so conservative because they've seen the ones that were less conservative go out of business and get bought out. And basically, I get it. On the underwriting side, I want you to continue being conservative, right? Anything that puts the balance sheet at risk, be conservative. But everything else, HR, technology, recruiting, training, everything else that doesn't put the balance sheet at risk, we don't have to be conservative there, but we tend to, right?
Yeah.
So I love that you guys are pushing us to innovate and helping us do it when it comes to our UI UX.
And I mean that's normal for regulated industries and for industries that are designed around risk. I mean, most people probably who aren't engineers don't realize it, but most engineers are very risk averse, right? Like if you're building a bridge, you're most likely not innovating, right? You are building, you're building the same bridge that stayed up for 50 years down the street. You're going to do it again right there.
That is a great example.
Because you don't want the liability. And, you know, it's pretty common in industries that deal with risk. So like nuclear, okay, right? Nuclear runs on the same code that it began with, Fortran, right? It's the same language, Fortran. You know, pharmaceutical, there are, I'd say over the past 10 years or so, they've made some pretty solid advances in things, but, you know, they were a lagging industry, right? There's a ton of risk that they manage. So insurance to me, like it's an industry designed around risk assessment, right? Like that's literally the business model.
Literally.
Do we get the risk assessment right so that we can price it correctly? And so if that's your core value add, you're most likely hiring people where that's their mentality, from birth or from training. And when you staff an organization, those people are going to be spreading out throughout it, and so they're just going to dictate that same mentality everywhere. So to me, it's a perfectly natural phenomenon that insurance is going to be significantly risk averse, even in areas where it doesn't need to be or make sense to be.
Okay, so the listeners, statistically, based on the surveys we've done, 30% of them are decision makers within either the carrier or the broker space. So listeners is listening and going laughing and going like, oh my God, yes, our user interface sucks. And I'm so tired of hearing customer complaints and agents complaints and everybody's complaints about how behind the times we are when it comes to our interface. Why Amplifi Labs? What is it about your process? So I love the fact that you guys have an intimate exposure to insurance, but how is your process designed to work well with our restrictions or with our challenges?
So I would say when thinking about our process, the first thing is that folks work with us because they like how we work. They like our process, right? If there are certain scenarios or customers out there where it's not the right fit, right? Fine. We've found, though, that for most companies and organizations, it is the right fit, particularly when they are looking for something different, something that isn't the way they've operated for the past 10 years, something that is more along the lines of how do we use the most recent philosophies on product development, product execution, etc. So the first thing that we do with anybody is we try and understand how do you operate and what are your goals, right? Because there are a million different ways to achieve what you're trying to do. And when things are successful, it means there's a proper alignment between what you're trying to achieve and then how you're going to get there. So there are absolutely circumstances where with our customers, we set off down the path and we realize, like, somebody realizes, could be a customer, could be us, somewhere's in the team, somebody says, wait, it feels like sand's in the gears. Something's wrong here. And we have to go back and we say, hey, look, our assumptions as a group, could be customer, could be us, right? Like everybody, we didn't understand something, right? Either with the team structure that you need, right? The expertise that you need. It could be the complete design of the way we interact. So for example, if we run the project, it's a different strategy than if we embed our team members within your team, right? Sometimes each of those strategies work, sometimes they don't, but it's very dependent on, the company, your goals, your internal team expertise, the amount of time your team has, etc., right? So understanding all of that up front as best as we can is critical to everything else in the process down the line, right? So that first step of understanding what the basic plan looks like is kind of the key in all of it. After that, you get into things like, we always do a design phase that includes UI, UX, engineering and architecture, right? Where you're solidifying what you want to do before you start writing code. And then after that, it's about, what are engineering processes like? What's the touch base, right? Do you have a product owner on the customer side? Do you have a product owner on our side? Where do each of those pieces of the puzzle that have specific expertise, where do they sit, right? And as I mentioned, that can change over time. You might get into it and you realize, okay, let's say the customer as a product owner, great. Okay, we're going to start that way. May find out, well, the customer's product owner also owns, 2 other products that they're trying to manage, and they don't have time to do it. All right, that's not a viable solution. We need to get another strategy in here, somebody who's got time to be the guru on this specific thing that's being built. So I'd say of anything in the process, the key thing is getting it as right as you possibly can out of the gate, and then adjusting down the road. And then there are lots of little pieces of that process puzzle in between all that.
Okay. I'm always curious on any client success stories where, and you can share the company name if you want to, you don't have to. But any client success stories, projects that you guys have done where it's made a huge difference to the client, and if they're within insurance, that'd be fantastic. But really, any client success stories that you feel like sharing? Yeah,
there's a really interesting one. I won't name the company because we've been requested not to, but it's fascinating. So it was in fintech. You could classify it as within fintech because it was in the crypto space, and we helped them essentially with like an NFT marketplace. And within, I think it was a 2-month build period, then there was a launch, and I think they made like a couple $1 million, like at launch within 15 minutes of that day, something like that, right? So that was an instance where the customer knew how to execute, right? They were experienced already, they understood the process, and they were prepared all the way along, right? And it was like, boom, right out of the gate, a quick build, a quick launch, and things went well. Not everybody is going to have that experience, right? Because not everybody has that previous experience that customer had, and the capabilities and knowledge, etc. So everyone's experience is going to be different. There was another customer of ours who we will very frequently put together some materials like clickable prototypes or anything else that's needed for them to go raise money, right, for a complete and full build. Let's say if you're on the startup side. This could also apply to somebody within a larger organization who needs to, drum up some budget for next year for a full build. It's the same thing, right? You're both technically raising money. In one case, you're going to VCs. In one case, you're going to your board or another executive team member and trying to convince them to put funds towards you, right? It's the same process. And so in that case, we sat down with them. We planned out the product. We built a prototype for them. And the key thing about this prototype for them was it looked really good, right? It represented the final product, but it was only done using design techniques, design software, so not writing any code. And it was using a specific type of software called Figma. Folks who are in design, they'll know what that is. If you're not, you won't, but that's fine. And, they took that prototype, they actually landed customers with it. They raised their complete set of their complete round that they were looking for within this down market, and we're getting ready to start with them next week, right? Again, a lot of that was because this isn't their first rodeo, right? They have raised money before. We have built products with them before. This is his third time coming back to us, and the 4th time that we've had some sort of interaction with him. He's referred other people to us, right? So he understood all the steps. He knew what to expect. He knew where the risks were, right? And that helped them execute, right? So you can kind of see a trend in that success is not just, say, dependent on the design that we do or the code we write, a key component is knowledge of the space, of the market, of the people that you're trying to get to use the product or influence to make a decision, etc. Right? So that is also a very key component of a successful, let's say, venture.
Okay. I love the NFT marketplace story because an NFT marketplace, their final customer is very discriminating, right? We're talking like very tech savvy, used to dealing with the latest technologies because that's who gets attracted to NFTs, right? So that UI experience had to be just right. Or the final client would not be happy with the experience. So if you can pull that off, anything we need with an insurance.
The team did a really good job. We were very proud of them.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Your point of the insurance, making insurance product users happy will be much easier than that. And the answer is yes.
Exactly. While at the same time, you understand how to work with those. You understand the fact that we're heavily regulated, right? You understand that the fact that we're coming from a world where changing a font size might take has traditionally taken a year of committee meetings and six-figure budgets.
Yeah, and we have customers who are in healthcare, right? And it's very similar with HIPAA and data and what you can do and what you can't do. FERPA in education, right? I mean, there are honestly, it kind of seems like there are more and more regulated industries all the time, and when it comes to software, right, which is a different conversation. But the point is that it's not new, it's not novel that an industry is regulated, right? The key thing is, if you're going into a regulated product, the most important thing is, do you have the right players who understand the pieces of the regulatory puzzle? And if you get those, then you just self-organize so that you can follow the rules, right? It's no more challenging than that. The biggest challenge is, honestly, in my experience, usually it's people's time, right? So the people who understand each regulatory aspect, it takes work to keep them in the loop. It takes work to make sure everything's being followed. But if you can get that cadence down and you can get that sort of engagement, you're going to be fine, right? It's no more challenging than a checklist that you just make sure you don't drop any balls on. Right?
Okay, fantastic. So listeners heard this. They're interested in having a conversation. I will tag both of you on the show notes when this goes out, and then website is Amplifi Labs, all I's not Y's, .com, and basically click on the contact section, enter my information, and one of you guys will give me a call to start the conversation, kind of thing.
Yeah, or you can just reach out to us to me at john.petitte at amplifilabs.com or jason.farrell at amplifilabs.com.
Perfect. And Petitte has Titte.
That's right.
So two T's on the second set of T's.
That's right. That's right. So it is actually Italian. So the originally in Italy was Petitte with an I at the end. So we didn't do this on purpose, but it's kind of like Amplify with the I at the end, right? So it's Petitte, and then when came over to the U.S., probably through Ellis Island or something, changed it to an E at the end.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you very much, both of you, for joining me today. Since you're starting to aim at the Latin market, if either of you end up in Buenos Aires over the next year, let me know. I'd love to have coffee and a media luna or a steak. We have fantastic steak, super cheap too. So anyway, thank you both for joining me today. Again, when this goes live, I'll tag you both on LinkedIn and the company on LinkedIn, and I look forward to see you guys continue to grow within insurance.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tony.
Great. Thanks so much, Tony.